Okay, so like I said earlier, we are going on a surprise date night tonight. I still have like 40 minutes to get ready, so hopefully I have enough time to figured it would be a perfect time to film like a go with everything but still very glam kind of look, like very neutral but still sparkly and full coverage. So this is like completely natural skin. I do have like my skin prep and everything on, and then I do have the Laneige lip sleeping mask. Eyes first, I'm thinking I'm just gonna be working with like my ride or dies like they've always worked for me. Modern Renaissance, Anastasia, I still use this, are the e.l.f. bite-size shadows, just a bunch of neutral shades. And then this is my favorite glitter ever because it's so easy to just take a brush and tap it on. You'll see in the end, but this is the e.l.f. Glitter shadow in the shade Flirty Birdie. So yeah, it's a sparkly, bronzy champagne-y shade. I always have like one of these black microfiber makeup towels next to me and a paper towel just because that's how I like to do my makeup. And yes, I do usually do my makeup in the bathroom, but I have discovered that this is like a really good setting. It's natural light, but I also have my little clip-on light as well. And I feel like the color is just a lot more true than it is in my bathroom. And also in my bathroom, I have to stand where I'm at right now. I can sit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a tapered flat brush and I'm just going to take a creamy shade and I'm just gonna pack that all over the lid. Because I am somebody that likes to work with a blank canvas, but I do feel like most eye primers / concealers are pretty heavy on the eye. And like I keep saying, I have dry skin, so I would rather a tiny bit of my natural veins show through rather than it get dry and cracked by the end of the night. And again, this is also a neutral makeup look, so I'm not too worried about my eyes being completely blocked out. And then I'm going to take the Morphe X Jaclyn Hill JH30 brush. I've had these brushes for forever, washed them a bunch of times, and they are still holding up. I mean, of course they're gonna shed every once in a while, but for the most part, they do not. So I'm just gonna take this really boring, plain neutral shade right here. And since it's a big, fluffy brush, I'm just gonna blend that all over my crease and a little bit on my lid. And this is most likely a look that you have seen before or a variation of it. And I know that, but I think that if you're somebody that hasn't been watching makeup videos since they were 10 years old, like myself, that it's good to see variations of the same thing a bunch of times, because I believe that that helps you retain that information better. And then when you go to do your makeup yourself, it feels more like an activity rather than a chore. Because I know that if you walk into your bathroom and you have these products and you don't know what to do with them, you're probably just looking at it like, what do I do with this? Where if you've seen different people on the internet do the same thing a million times, then when you walk into your bathroom and you look at a makeup palette, you're not afraid of it, you're excited about it. So yeah, just generously buffed that all over my crease and a little bit on my lid. And I do tend to like looks that lean slightly on the cool side rather than on the orangey side. But I still don't do like gray very often, but I definitely prefer more of a taupey brown rather than an orangey brown. So now I'm going to take a fluffy brush that's in pretty much the same shape, but it's just a little bit smaller. This is the NYX 16. I've had this brush for forever, and I kind of wish I had multiple of this brush just because I feel like it's such a universal basic brush that everybody needs. And I'm gonna take the shade Warm Taupe. It says Warm Taupe in this palette, but it really is more of a cool tone shade. And I'm gonna focus that a little bit more on the outer, but it's still not super dark, so I am going to bring it into the crease a little bit, but I'm just gonna keep it a little bit lower. And I'm gonna put this a little bit on the outer half of my eyelid as well, because the deepest shade that we take, I'm only gonna put in the outer part of my eye. And I do like to take my shadows like right in here as well, but I just try to not buff it up here. I try and keep it down low just because I like the way that it makes my eye socket sink in just a little bit. So same thing on this side. And I like to lightly pack and then grab a tiny bit more and go around that and like buff out the edge, because I am using a fluffy brush, so you can only pack a light brown shadow on so much with a fluffy brush. Now, if I was using more of a flat topped, dense brush, then it would obviously pack more of a punch, but because I'm using a fluffy brush, it's gonna diffuse as I'm tapping, if that makes sense, because that's just how the brush is shaped and that's what it's meant to do. And make sure I'm even. Okay, and now I'm going to go into, take another blending brush that's about the same size as the NYX one, but it's a little bit denser. So it's gonna make the colors pack a little bit more of a punch. And again, this is a Morphe X Jaclyn Hill brush in JH33. See, it's a little bit smaller, similar shape, but the bristles are packed a little bit tighter. The brushes that I use, I feel like are proof of how long I have been following makeup influencers, because the Morphe X Jaclyn Hill or Morphe X any influencer was now some time ago, but the brushes are still great. I know that Morphe is kind of a touchy subject for people that are deep into the makeup industry, but at the end of the day, I've had these brushes for years. They still last. End of story, all opinions aside. So yeah, this color, I'm just going to take on the outer part of my eye, and I am gonna bring this in the crease just a little bit, but every shade that I use, I'm keeping lower and lower and more concentrated in that area where I place it, whereas opposed to that first brown shade that we used, I really blew it out and was a little bit all over the place with it, where the darker I go with the shade, the more careful I am in where I place it. And really all these basic brown looks is just building, blending, building, blending some more. They're really not complicated. You just need to give them a little bit of patience. And that's why people are so afraid of color, and color can be really difficult if you're just learning, because really the only difference with color is that you have to be more careful when you're blending, because brown blends with brown. But so I'm only gonna take one more dark shade because it's using what I've got on my eye in real life. It's diffusing it a little bit with this fill light that I have on my phone right now, but in natural light, it is a little bit darker than what it's showing up as right now. So I'm gonna take Cypress Umber from the Anastasia palette, and I'm taking this on a little skinny blending brush. This is the JH40. Somebody let me know, can you still even get these brushes? Like, none of them are super unique shapes, so there's no doubt that you would be able to find similar brushes at other brands, or maybe even still Morphe if you like Morphe brushes. But I wonder if these collections are still available. Like, is this brush collection still available? I would love to know. This, I'm not really bringing in the crease at all. I'm really just focusing it on that outer V. I start the placement, I'm actually placing it more along my lash line and then placing it in the outer V. And I am blending a little bit, as you see now, but I am more so just tapping and ever so slightly buffing. I love this shade because, as we all know, black is very, very, very aggressive. But I feel like this really dark brown gives you the same effect because it's such a dark brown, but it's not as offensive or difficult to work with as black. It is very, very rare that you will see me blending with black. It is often that I will take a black shadow, like this one, for example. It looks like it's got some shimmer in it, which it does, but when you are using it, the shimmer goes away. But I will use a shade like this to line my eyes, especially on a day where I'm barely wearing any makeup, but I want to give my lashes a little bit of oomph. I will take a little liner brush like this one, like a skinny little brush, and I will just line with the black shadow, and I love doing that, but it's very rare that you'll see me blending with black eyeshadow. I don't know what I would do without this little brush because it is a packing brush, but it is so little, but it's still not super densely packed. It's just the best little brush. I don't know what I would do without it. This is the JH42. And I actually don't like taking the applicator and just going like this because you don't know exactly how much product is on this wand. So what I like to do is take some of it off the wand like that, because then I know that this is how much product I'm working with. Take my mirror, and I am gonna start on the inner corner and then blend it a little bit further out, because the inner corner is where I want most of the sparkle. Because like I said, this is a liquid glitter. It is not a liquid shimmer, it's a liquid glitter. And on my natural days, I will take a bigger packing brush and I will blend this out more instead of packing it and give it more of that glimmery all over sparkle. But for this look, I want it to be more of a concentrated, punchy metallic on the inner third of my eye. And then on the end, you just kind of flick it out, and there you go. And I might let this dry and even pack a tiny bit more, like right in here, just because like I said, I don't know where we're going, but he said that it is kind of night outy type of vibes, which for me always means glitter. So same thing on this side. And I don't find this glitter flakes very much, but just with any metallic or liquid glitter, consciously not bend my eyelid just while it's still a little bit wet. And I'm almost doing my version of a cut crease because I don't use concealer and do a super dramatic cut crease like everybody used to do in 2016, but I use the glitter to do a subtle cut crease by carving. So you can kind of see when it catches the light that my crease is defined, but it's not defined by concealer, so it's not quite as aggressive. I am going to do that. I'm just going to take a little bit more. Just go right in the inner. And another reason why I love doing this with a brush is, again, it's all about control, and I believe that that's the trick in not letting these types of products get patchy, is not using too much product. So when I use a brush and I can control the amount of product that I have, I'm able to build up in areas. If I feel like a certain area needs a little bit more shine, then I can control how much glitter I'm depositing into that spot where I want it. I don't have to take this applicator and go like this and be like, oh God, I hope this doesn't take off my eyeshadow. Where if you use a brush like this or similar to this, you can control the placement and it'll avoid that. So then I'm gonna take my normal mascara that I always use, the Falsies Surreal by Maybelline. I do think I need a new tube. It's starting to seem like it's drying up a little bit, but I have had this tube for some time now, so. And I just like to start at the base and really make sure I've got the base coated before I worry about how the ends look. Oh my God, it's amazing how much of a difference mascara makes. Look at that. And I thought I needed 2 coats, but the way my first eye went, I'm thinking I'm liking the way that it looks with just one. It is funny though how one eye can be different than the other. So like with this eye, I don't think I need a second coat, but with this eye, like right in here, I feel like it still looks, they still look a little bit thin. So I'm gonna wait for that to dry just a little bit, and then I'm gonna apply a second coat. It's like you see how on this, it looks a lot thicker, like right through here, and here it doesn't look quite as thick. Because I'm somebody that would rather my eyelashes look slightly less thick and avoid the spidery look. I love the look of many, many, many lashes. So those are the eyes done. Glamorous, not too dark, but still a little bit dark. Love it. And this is like my go-to semi-glam eye makeup. It's like perfect date night. Like it's still a natural glam, like sultry glam, but it's not too over the top, but it's definitely not natural. So it's like my perfect middle ground. Like if I don't know what the vibes are gonna be or how fancy something is gonna be, then this is like a makeup look that is a default for me, for my eyes. So I just wet my sponge, and I always like to give it a good squeeze and dry it off. I feel like that is a common mistake for beginners, is having their sponge too wet. So because this is a date night outfit, and I'm assuming we're gonna be taking pictures, I'm going to start with the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer with 4% niacinamide. And I feel like the first time I used this, I didn't like it because I used too much of it. So, because when I used less, the next couple times I used it, I found that I liked it more. So I like to put this anywhere where my makeup would tend to crack. So I press it into my smile lines. My smile lines aren't that bad, just like with my face relaxed. But when I smile, they definitely crease a little bit. So I tap this in, and I try to avoid putting too much product on my under eyes, because if you don't know, your under eyes have some of the thinnest skin on your face. So if you overwhelm them, it can end up doing more harm than good. And the same thing with my forehead. I am 23 years old, so I do not get any Botox. I most likely will in the future, like when I get into my later 20s, maybe mid 20s. But at this point, I have done nothing to my face with the exception of one hydrofacial, but that is it. Okay, so I tap that into my skin, and like I said, I only put it in the middle of my face where I tend to express a lot and my makeup could potentially crack. And now I'm going to take just a tiny bit of the putty primer and rub it between my fingers, and again, we're gonna tap. So I'm gonna tap it where I have pores, which similar to everybody, it's right there in the middle of their cheeks, a little bit on my chin, and a little bit between my brows. But you saw how much was on my nail. So I'm really not using that much, but I'm just tapping a lot to make sure that it is pressed in. And this glow is from my skin products earlier. Like I keep saying, I have dry skin, so if my skin is not hydrated and glowy underneath, it's gonna be a bad makeup day for me. My foundation combo is the e.l.f. Halo Glow and the e.l.f. Soft Glam Foundation, but depending on the kind of look, I will use more of this and less of this, or more of this and less of this. So on a night like tonight, I'm gonna use more of real foundation and then less of this, but I like this just because I feel like it brings a little bit more moisture into any foundation that I use. An old foundation that I actually still have in my collection, but I haven't used for some time because it's old and I need to throw it away, is the Milani Conceal and Perfect. That used to be my go-to like prom wedding foundation, and like I said, I haven't used it in forever, but I'm curious to see if I would still like it if I repurchased it. But yeah, so I'm just using a little bit of the e.l.f. on the perimeter of my face. Another reason why is I'm not using very much of that is because it is not summer and that shade is currently a little too dark for me. So I'm gonna put the e.l.f. Soft Glam Foundation in the middle of my face. And although the squeezy tube applicator is not the fanciest thing in the world, this foundation is great to travel with because you don't have a heavy glass bottle such as this one. Even this one's not that heavy, but because it's in a glass bottle, it definitely adds more weight than this one. So this one is, I don't think I said, the Halo Glow is in the shade Fairlight, is shade 2. So I need to get shade 1, and then the Soft Glam is in shade 20, Light Cool. And I'm just gonna take my Charlotte Tilbury mirror and blend this out. And I try right in the beginning to mix the two products that I just put on, because you can see how this is darker and this is lighter. So I try to mix it right off the bat just to create a really seamless blend. And I always bring it a little bit down my neck, and especially right here behind where your jaw begins, especially if you're planning on wearing any earrings, and it brings brings attention to your ear, it would make this really, really obvious if the shade difference was too great. And remember, we're trying not to put too much product on the under eye. So this is where I'm stopping. I'm not going all the way into my inner tear duct, because this is actually a tip. That is actually a tip that I learned from Robert Welsh that I mentioned in my intro video. And he is a professional makeup artist on YouTube and in actuality. And he is the one that taught me that there is really no need to bring your foundation all the way up into your inner corner of your eye if you're going to use a full coverage concealer anyways. That is something I do want to get though, is a more full coverage concealer, just for looks like tonight. And even though I love glowy skin, I do love when the very innermost part of my eye is matte, just because I love a sparkle on my eye. So I feel like we don't need to be sparkly on the eye and glowy under the eye. So like right in here, I want a more full coverage concealer than what I already own, just to kind of make this a little bit more stark, because it'll make this pop a little bit more instead of them blending into each other. Like I said, I did not use a whole lot of product, but that does not mean that you can blend the less product you use. Even if you use just a little bit of product, you should still be going over areas of your face more than once, just to make sure that everything really is blended together. And now I'm gonna use a trick that a lot of YouTubers and makeup artists use, is to layer your setting sprays in between products. So I'm gonna take the e.l.f. Power Grip Dewy Setting Spray. And now I'm gonna take the ColourPop concealer and I'm gonna place that right up under my under eye, like that. So funny how affordable concealers still manage to smell like paint. I do need a lighter concealer because this one pretty much matches my winter shade. That was something that I meant to do when it started getting colder, but I forgot and then I just never did. Start with the chin because I need the least amount of coverage there. Then in between my brow, and I'm doing the under eyes last because that's where I want the most coverage. So we're just gonna let her sit for a little bit. Like that. And then we're gonna start tapping. Make sure you have a very light hand when working this close to your lower lash line, just like that. And now I'm gonna go ahead and set underneath my eye to take a little powder puff and the e.l.f. Halo Glow Loose Powder, and then just tap under the eye. And because this is a more full coverage look, I'm going to take a little bit of my smile lines. And now I'm going to contour just a little bit, and I'm going to take the e.l.f. Foundation Blurring Brush. It's like this dense tapered brush. And I'm gonna tap this out. And try your best when working with these cream products to avoid swiping. Try to just tap everything in. Because as you saw, it was really dramatic in the beginning, and now it is a lot more seamless. And as I don't care what you tell me, it doesn't matter how blendable something is, I will always do one side at a time with the fear of doing dots on both sides, blending out one and then having this one stick. Because once those cream products have done that, where they stick and then you try and move them and then they just move things underneath of them, then you're pretty much screwed. Unless you're a pro makeup artist or a YouTuber that has been doing their makeup for years and years and years, then you can fix it. But if you are somebody like myself, you're pretty much screwed. That's why I always apply one side, then blend, and then apply to the other side, and then blend. And now I'm gonna do my forehead. And there we go. So now I'm going to lightly powder all over my face with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder in the shade 1 Fair. And I'm just taking this loosely packed fluffy brush and tapping all around. I still want the glow to shine through, but because I am going to be wearing this makeup for I don't know how many hours, I do want some powder to ensure that it stays locked in. But I'm still not putting on too much powder to where it completely takes the shine away. And I'm not really gonna powder right here in the middle because we already did that. And then take it down your neck just a little bit because we did put foundation there. And now we're going to spritz again. I just realized that I am running late, but that is okay because my boyfriend is still in the shower. I know he's gonna come running in here in just a second. So I'm just gonna fill my eyebrows in really quick. Nothing too crazy. That's still something I'm not an expert on, is how to fill in my eyebrows perfectly. Like all of the Instagram girlies. So I already have thin brows, so I feel like it would take a lot more work to do the perfect eyebrows than somebody that already has thick, full brows, but it's okay. So we're just gonna lightly fill them in with the e.l.f. Instant Lift Brow Pencil. And now I'm gonna go over the bronzer really quick with the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Bronzer in the shade Soft Matte Bronze. And I'm just gonna tap one more time in the hollows of my cheekbones just to make sure that bronzer doesn't fade. Sometimes I will do a cream blush underneath, but I didn't know what I was going to be wearing for sure. So I didn't want to put on too much blush with the risk of it clashing with my outfit. So I'm gonna put on powder blush. So I'm gonna use NARS Orgasm. It's a classic, fan favorite. And again, we're just gonna tap. And I like to wear my blush up high, almost on my temple. Some people look better with it sitting here on the apples, but I find for me, I like it better when it sits up a little bit higher. And then today we are going to highlight a little bit more than we usually do because we are going out tonight. I don't really care if super blinding highlighter is not in because I will always love it. Like, I didn't fully fall victim to blush blindness, but I feel like I have always lived my life in highlighter blindness. But I can admit to that and I'm okay with that. I am going to show you guys my lip in the car because like I said, I'm running late. So I have to move on and get ready. But this is the finished look aside from the lip.